the winners of the NBA trade deadline. Now, this trade deadline, it wasn't really that booming, I guess you could say. Like, there weren't really that many big names involved in the trade deadline as much as I thought that there would be. But there were some, just not as big as I would thought. So let's go over some of the winners. Let's go over some of the losers. I'll give you some of my opinions on that, but let's get started. So the first one on the list was Buddy Hield getting traded to the Sixers in exchange for Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, and 3 second-round picks. So I think this is a great move from Philly because given how Embiid is injured, they definitely need a lot more scoring and to sort of fill in that role while Embiid is out recovering from his meniscus injury. And Buddy Hield he's a very underrated three-point shooter. In my personal opinion, very underrated three-point shooter. And I feel like that offensive production is sort of what the Sixers need at this point. And like the Pacers, they get a pretty good rotational center. I mean, they're not really I don't think they're gonna do that much with them, given how well the offense is around the team and how well they're producing and whatnot. But they haven't really upgraded their defense, which, again, I've stated several times on this podcast. Defense is vital. It is extremely vital when you're going into the playoffs. And I feel like their lack of defense is eventually going to be their downfall going into the playoffs. Because while their offense is great, like, I'm not going to deny their offense. It's not great. They move really fast. They run a fast-paced offense. And with that fast-paced offense, there's going to be a lot of shots and a lot of three-pointers that they take. And when you keep that in mind, you also have to make those three-pointers. And if they aren't making those three-pointers, where do they fall back? Like, what's their next step? Like, where can they fall back on? And so defense has always been a reliable aspect of the playoffs, given how much pressure it is. Like going into away games, the crowd being in your ear, and like it's really difficult to concentrate. Obviously, these players are NBA athletes, so they're used to these type of noises. But it could get to some people. It can get in some people's heads, and it could affect their performance throughout the postseason. The next trade that we have is Kelly Olynyk and Chai Abgaji, forgive me if I botched that name, going to the Raptors in exchange for Kira Lewis, Otto Porter Jr., and a 2024 late first-round pick. So the first-round pick is going to be a late pick, and Chai has a similar value as a late first-round pick, so they got a pretty good return. If they tank and they still have their first-round pick and Indiana's first-round pick from 2024. So Kelly Olynyk is a floor spacer. In my opinion, that's a very underrated aspect of this game. Having a center that can space the floor opens up so much for your team offensively, and especially for a rebuilding team, because spacing at the 5, it allows these young players to operate a lot more freely, given how much space there is on the court. And with that in mind, like there's obviously going to be rotation defense going in for when if they get into the paint. That creates a lot easier looks for the other players. And assuming that the defense, like given how in today's NBA the defense is rather lazy, rotation might also be lazy. So it could result in some really clean looks having the great spacing that they do have now. Another trade that happened was Gordon Hayward going to Oklahoma in exchange for Trey Mann and Davis Bertans. Nothing really too special. The Hornets are rebuilding, so it makes sense that they would give away one of their valuable players. Well, like not really valuable. Gordon Hayward has sort of lost his value compared to what he was on Utah. He was an absolute monster on the Utah Jazz. And after his injury with the Boston Celtics in 2018, he's never really been the same player. So with that in mind, I don't really understand this trade coming from OKC. I felt like their rotations and their starting lineup was all right. But given how they've been losing a lot of these close games recently, maybe they do need some more offense to help them out, but again, it's a really confusing trade because Gordon Hayward doesn't have nearly the same value as he had with Utah, but we'll see how this goes. And here comes the next trade. The Knicks, they're doing so much better after the OG trade, and now they added much more options in the rotation. Detroit got the trade that I'm talking about was Bojan and Alec Burks from Detroit moving over to New York in exchange for Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, and 2 second-round picks. Detroit got a very solid return for giving away like such valuable assets on their team. And OG recently, he underwent surgery to remove a loose bone fragment, and that will have him sidelined for a minimum of 3 weeks, as I'm reading right now. And it's minor, but it was the fastest way for OG to recover from his injury. And in perfect timing, too, because All-Star break is coming around the corner. So this is a great window of for him to recover and to get back into the Knicks rotation, as well as implementing the rest of these players in the rotation, along with Jalen Brunson being injured. So they have time. Now is not the time for the Knicks to hit the panic button. They're totally fine. And even though they dropped from the 2nd seed all the way down to the 4th seed, they're fine. No big deal. Getting these players in the lineup will definitely help the team while they wait for OG, Julius Randle, and Jalen Brunson to come back from their injuries. Hopefully they come back the same and they don't come back. We know how some players, like, they come back a little bit rusty from injuries. If they can come back the same, the Knicks are smooth sailing from here, and I feel like they're going to end up getting the 2nd seed or the 3rd seed, which will put them in a great spot to make a deep playoff run. And winners of the trade deadline. We have somebody in the chat, Crucial PG. Winners of the trade deadline, not the Clippers. Yeah, I was going to mention that earlier. The Clippers did not make any sort of moves in the trade deadline. And I was actually very surprised given how many players they don't really use in their rotation. So that really surprised me. But again, yeah, they definitely are one of the losers of the trade deadline. Also with the other LA team is also a loser in the trade deadline, but I'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about the trade between Dallas and getting Daniel Gafford in exchange for Rashad Holmes and a 2024 late first-round pick. It's a good trade from both sides. Gafford's a great take from Dallas, my personal opinion. The first-round pick is the same deal. Is in the same deal with Olynyk, where it's between Houston, Utah, the Clippers, and OKC. The trade is also between Washington, by the way. I completely forgot to mention that. Sorry. And the Washington would get the second least favorable of those picks between the 4 teams that I just mentioned. I don't know how Dallas got that pick. I really don't know. But overall, the trade from Dallas, they get a good center to operate the pick and roll with Luka and Kyrie Irving. He's crazy efficient, always averaging at least 65% from the field or higher. And now we're going to go into a loser of the trade deadline, which is the Brooklyn Nets trading away Spencer Dinwiddie in exchange for Thaddeus Young and Dennis Schroeder. As a Nets fan, I don't understand this trade at all. This doesn't put us in any type of position to make any moves and to really get in the play-in. And unless, it's a useless trade, really. And we got a rotational guard for, 2 seasons, yeah, but, what is that move going to accomplish for us? We have a good rotation guard, but where is our defense? We have, the Nets have 0 defense. It's really bad, and they're mid, and they're in the mid tier of offense and defensive ratings. So they're they were ranked 17th in offensive rating, and they were ranked 17th in defensive rating. It's not ideal, and we're definitely not going anywhere with these at this rate. And the Raptors, they get better floor spacing, so I guess that's a plus for them on that exchange. It's a mid trade for both teams in my opinion, and they don't really seem to be going anywhere. So, and the Mavs were also involved in another trade to get P.J. Washington in exchange for Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and the 2027 first-round pick. Also, I should mention, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this new camera, if you like it or not. But back to the trade. I don't think I'd want PJ over someone like Grant Williams. However, there was just news recently that was breaking out saying that Grant Williams wasn't really meshing well with the locker room and the Mavs wanted to get rid of him. So maybe that's why that trade was even initiated in the first place. But they do have Gafford as the center, so I guess it's to compensate to get a center that has a lot more floor spacing for Luka and Kyrie to operate. As we know, they're some of the best isolation players that this league has seen. So it's definitely a great fit for the Mavs if that's their goal and they want to introduce spacing. Grant is still young, 25 years old, and is around the same age as LaMelo, not Carmelo Anthony. And they could Melo and Grant definitely could work in the pick and roll. Now, just because I'm calling him Melo, I don't want anybody to be confused. Carmelo Anthony is the real Melo. It's just LaMelo Ball, and saying Melo is a lot easier. There was also a 3-team trade between Phoenix, Brooklyn, and the Memphis Grizzlies. So just to elaborate on the details, Royce O'Neal and David Roddy are now on the Phoenix Suns. Forgive me if I botch any of their last names. Jordan Goodwin, Keita Bates, and 3 second-round picks go to the Nets. And Memphis gets Yuta Watanabe, Chimezie Metu, and a future pick swap. My personal opinion, it's a fair payment for Phoenix, fair payment from Brooklyn. Not entirely sure the pick swap details for Memphis' side. If it's the post-KD era in Phoenix, like that unprotected swap that they have, that is a very good value. But otherwise, this deal is sort of mid for Memphis, so not entirely sure exactly the entirety of the details. I will figure that out eventually. I don't think they'd feel bitter about losing Roddy in the lineup or him being moved. Patrick Beverley got traded to the Bucks in exchange for Cameron Payne and a 2027 second-round pick. I think this is a great move for the Bucks, who lack defense at the guard position. Having Dame in the rotation, as I've said numerous times on this podcast, Dame is a terrible defender. One of the many reasons why Portland hasn't made it that far in the playoffs outside of 2019. And having Patrick Beverley in that rotation will definitely help their defense because they replaced an offensive-minded point guard as a backup with a defensive-minded point guard as a backup. I think that's a very good pairing. The only problem with this move is Patrick Beverley's relationship with Damian Lillard. I'm not sure if you guys know, but Patrick Beverley, I'm sure you know that Patrick Beverley loves to talk trash. And one of the players that he tended to talk trash to a lot was Damian Lillard. So a little bit of bad blood between those two point guards, but we'll see how they mesh together, wanting to win, because now the ultimate goal is to win a championship. Even though the Bucks, they have Doc Rivers, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not going to harp on Doc Rivers too much because I will wait until the All-Star break to give my final opinions on Doc, but as of right now, he's not doing a great job. Another trade also came in a little bit later that day, moving Morris to the Spurs for a future second-round pick in exchange for Doug McDermott. So Doug McDermott is now on the Pacers, which is definitely a very good pickup. They essentially got Doug McDermott for a second-round pick because they recently acquired Morris in the trades. So Doug McDermott shoots 44% from the three. So given how fast-paced that Indiana Pacers offense is, he is going to be very valuable for the team. Extremely valuable given how well he shoots from the three. And the Spurs had no reason to hang on to him either, because given how Victor Wembanyama's been playing and the rest of the team has been treating him, they're in tank mode. So they didn't really need him. Definitely will help the Pacers and their offense. Jaden Springer got traded to the Celtics in exchange for a late second-round pick. Basically, I don't want to be mean, but they basically sold him for a bag of chips. I'd say that Springer holds a lot more value than a late second-round pick. So it's a pretty good trade between both of them. Now, if you paid attention, I mentioned the other LA team is one of the losers in the trade deadline, and that other LA team is, of course, the Los Angeles Lakers. They did nothing for the trade deadline. Absolutely nothing. And as a LeBron fan, it infuriates me that they are just wasting LeBron's time. Absolutely wasting his time over there in Los Angeles. And I'm sick of it. Like, all of this trade talks, they do this every single year. They say that they're going to bring these great players coming in. Oh, we're going to trade for this guy. We're going to trade for that guy. We're going to get Kawhi. We're going to get Paul George. We're going to get DeMarcus Cousins. Now it's Donovan Mitchell. And it's like, when are you going to actually do something to help LeBron? Like, LeBron has practically wasted his time there. And he's probably going to miss the play-in with how bad these Lakers offense has been and not even make a deep playoff run. It is embarrassing having a prime LeBron on your lineup. Embarrassing having a prime LeBron and not being able to do anything in the postseason. Terrible. They've done a horrible job giving him help. And I thought Cleveland did a bad job giving him help. This is a million times worse. But I digress. I went on a little rant there because it's the same deal with these Lakers every single time, the exact same deal, and they're just wasting LeBron, wasting him. But with that and with the rant over, we are out of time for this first segment, so I will be going into the second segment where I talk about Kobe Bryant and him getting a statue outside of Crypto Arena. I will be right back after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And before I get into the second segment, talking about Kobe getting his statue and how he's going to get 2 more statues, let me first go ahead and remind you all, please remember to tip and to donate to get your comments recognized. Once again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip. The link is displayed in the description below, and it is also displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. Really helps, makes the show much more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Once again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip. And with that out of the way, let's go on into the second segment where we talk about Kobe Bryant getting his first statue in front of Crypto Arena. Now, you'll notice in the ticker how I put 2 instead of the actual word 2. That was on purpose, representing Gianna Bryant, rest in peace, and all the other people that were involved.